Welcome back to another Director's Cut. My host, I am a host. My name's Jon Dunning, and I have another host with me. Would you like to introduce yourself, sir?
Hi, I'm Tony Walters, the other host on this show called Director's Cut on They Said We Said.
Yes, hi. Indeed. And this week, coming off of, what did we do last week again? Who did we do? Oh, we did Quentin Tarantino. Yeah, that was. Oh my God, how could I forget? That show was awesome. Kevin Smith did Quentin Tarantino. Now we are covering the man that has been accused of being style over substance, and Tony and I will talk about that to see if there's any truth to that. And that's UK's very own Edgar Wright. This man kind of broke onto the scene doing TV and has just literally foot on the pedal ever since then. So, Tony, what is your introduction to Edgar Wright?
My introduction is Shaun of the Dead. 2004, I think I was like a junior in high school. I was at an age where I was starting to appreciate film more often, like picking up on different directors and really getting attached to certain filmmakers, and was also in a state, and I feel like I'm always in a state of, I don't really care too much for comedies. Like, I think comedies are, they're funny, but I think that they're kind of lazy in their filmmaking. And Shaun of the Dead is not that. Shaun of the Dead is an extremely visual story, and it's a comedy, and it just made me go, oh, so you can actually do like visual, like style, like storytelling in a comedy. And I was at an age where I didn't necessarily pick up on camera movements and things like that. Like I was into film, but I wasn't like I am now. But this movie, when this comes into that style over substance like debate, he has a style, and that style is in your face the whole movie. And it was the first time that I watched a movie where I went, wow, like this guy has a style, and I just fell in love with it immediately.
Absolutely. This movie was a lot of firsts for me. At the time, and I think I've mentioned this at least on the channel, if not on one of these shows before, I was like, my number one phobia in the world was zombies. I was deathly afraid of zombies in any type or fashion. I watched all the Romero things kind of later on because I played Resident Evil 2, and it completely fucked me up because I think I was like 9 years old or something whenever Resident Evil 2 came out. And it was just such a horrible, creepy video game that it killed me as far as zombies went. And I was always like, when I was little, like, I don't know why horror movies like really affected me. So it was like, I was always afraid of like Chucky and Leprechaun. Even now, I just, those are totally silly. And they were silly back then, but to a little kid, I guess they could be frightening. But this movie, I was very reluctant to go see this film, and people kind of literally had to kind of drag me in. And I saw it, and it just completely blew my mind, and it stripped all that phobia away. It made zombies fun again. And now, I host Walking Dead shows and all that. So I have to thank this film for doing that. And this was, yeah, like you said, I don't think anyone knew what to expect, because especially over here in the States, not a lot of people were aware of what he did before. I think, Fistful of Fingers was his first movie. I haven't seen it. I don't think you have either. But Spaced, he was show running this show called Spaced with Simon Pegg, and I think Nick Frost was involved as well. And it was just absolutely fantastic, which I kind of found later. But yeah, just like you said, the style, the zoom cuts, the long shots. I mean, this guy, he just has everything, and it's so much style. But when people say style over substance, I mean, the substance was there. The comedy was absolutely fantastic, and this movie just kind of changed everything.
Right. And it's more than comedy though too. Like, he writes extremely interesting characters. The character of Shaun is one of the most compelling protagonists in any movie ever, and it's a stupid zombie comedy movie. You know what I mean? But you care about this character so much. When he has to kill his mother, it is such a sad scene. It's so hard to watch. And it's because of just really, really good writing and really interesting characters. You feel like it's like you almost know somebody just like each of those characters in the real world. Like, you have friends that are just like these guys. Like, an asshole like that guy, and like you've got friends. Like, if you and your girlfriend broke up, like, what's your best buddy gonna do? Hey, let's get drunk all day today. And guess what? tomorrow morning, let's start out with Bloody Marys. We'll just get drunk all day tomorrow too.
And the character is so relatable too, because I think he's like an assistant manager or something. It was like a electronics store, and he's just this kind of it's kind of similar to his character in a later movie like The World's End, but not extreme. Like that was almost like a caricature. There was like decisions were made with that one, and this guy is just kind of happy with status quo. Like he's just kind of going through the motions. He has a roommate that's very annoyed with him, but it's almost because he has his friend Nick Frost, and I forgot his name in the movie now. Do you remember?
It's Ed.
Ed, yeah, him and Ed just are just happy with drinking beer and sitting down and playing video games. But it's just so funny, and just that first initial scene where he just kind of wakes up in the morning and he just walks to work in the beginning before the shit hits the fan, and it's so it's very zombie-ish, it's very post-apocalyptic, but it almost reminded me of Joe versus the Volcano a little bit, where it's just like people are just kind of mundane Walking Dead, going about their everyday life, and then when shit does hit the fan and he's walking through and he's like narrowly avoiding being bitten by
Right.
walking zombies and shit. It's just hilarious.
It's hilarious, but it's also extremely creative filmmaking because those shots mirror each other completely. Like they're the exact same scene, just now all the shit's at the fan, and he's like, and he still doesn't even really, he's just oblivious to the world around him. And I absolutely love that aspect. It's like one of the comedy moments that hits so hard because it's visual storytelling that's hilarious. Like there's no joke there. There's no line.
Right.
It's just him walking, and it's really funny. The moment when he's sitting on the couch and he's watching TV, and it's like the way that they give you all the information without it being just like a quick cut to a television screen that's like some news channel. It's like him flipping through the channels, and it's like each channel describes, it's just like one sentence that each channel starts to fill in about how people are eating each other alive, and it's just absolutely hilarious, but also extremely creative storytelling.
Absolutely, yeah, and the jokes, when the jokes do hit, they hit hard. And just the cast is fantastic. Bill Nighy as the stepdad, and even his introduction, the shot of his introduction, he's like slowly turning like a zombie, but it's just so mirrors the real life, and it had almost like what's the word I'm looking for, it had almost like a social commentary a little bit of the middle class of you just if you don't make it to a certain point in life, you're just kind of waking up to do the routine and then go home like a zombie would, just going and walking around and eating people. And it had stuff to say for a comedy, but it was a fantastic romp. I mean, it has great jokes when he and Ed are sitting down on the couch and the zombie walks in their house and they just throw up their arms and scream. And it's just, there's so many great moments and shot so well that I still think to this day, and he had some great follow-ups that we're going to talk about, but I still think that Shaun of the Dead is my favorite Edgar Wright film.
I don't know if I'm going to say it's my favorite, but it's damn close. I mean, it's like it was my favorite for a very long time. I'll put it that way, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Moving on.
Before we move on.
Yeah. Real quick, before we move on, I just want to say Edgar Wright does great gore effects too. And the zombies in this looked fantastic, especially because they were all practical and for the time and all that too. I just want to throw that out there.
Right. I fully agree. Before we move on though, do you have a special guest that you're drinking?
Look at that. It's like it's the first day on the job or something. I have a Pike IPA. This is from Seattle. Maybe I forgot about it because I kind of am forgetting about it. It's just kind of a blah IPA. I hate to say that because I love Pike beers. But this is just their flagship. 6.3%. I got two of these. Do you have a special guest, sir?
I have a New Belgium Voodoo Ranger Imperial IPA.
He's like, damn it, mention the beer for what?
It's 9%.
Oh,
and
shit.
Courtesy of Rebecca Herb, she just left these in the fridge here. That's why I'm drinking them. They were sitting next to my PBR, but I thought, for the sake of the show, I'll go this route.
And of course, this is courtesy of my Christian at Northwest Beverage. Love you, boo. All right. So sorry. The one time that I take for granted that you're not drinking a PBR, you actually have something. And I haven't had that one. We sell it up here. I've seen it. How is it? How's it treating you?
It's a bit of it's like a floral IPA, and I prefer a citrus IPA.
Sure.
So it's all right. It goes. I mean, it's smooth, but it just has that. I'm not a big fan of the floral, so it just has like that floral kind of bite to it that I don't really appreciate.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. This one has a little bit of the floral note, but mostly just like that heavy pine, like super hop. It doesn't have any citrus to break it up or any of that like juice, like grapefruit notes. It's just kind of really sharp pine, which isn't my favorite, but it's still a greatly, constructed beer. A pike beer is great, but yeah. All right. Back to the films.
All right. I think next up, a few years down the line here, year after I graduated high school, we got Hot Fuzz.
Whew. Okay. And I feel like I'm going to let the world down here because I watched Hot Fuzz. I remember I loved it. I really, really enjoyed Hot Fuzz when I watched it. But it's been so long since I saw it. I just ran out of time. I was going to rewatch that one. So this is one that I'm going to kind of just try to drum up memories. I do remember it was on the same notes. It's part of we'll take this opportunity to talk about, it's called the Coronello trilogy.
It's the Cornetto trilogy.
Cornetto trilogy. It's all these, this Shaun of the Dead and The World's End are all part of, unofficially a part of a unofficial trilogy, only tied together by different flavors of the same company's ice cream.
Yeah. It's a thing in the UK. Dan explained it all to me earlier today. Dan Murphy was supposed to be on the show talking about, one of his favorite directors ever, and couldn't make it, which is fine. Dan, calling you out. But he explained it to me earlier, and he's like, "Here, now use that later on the show." This ice cream is eaten in all three of the films.
And I do know that the Shaun of the Dead one was red for zombie blood. This one in Hot Fuzz, I want to say it was green, and I don't remember why. But then the one in The World's End was blue because of sci-fi. I don't know. That's all I remember.
Yeah, that's more information than what I was given.
What do you remember about Hot Fuzz?
Hot Fuzz is also the one that I think, when it came out, I actually didn't even watch it. I didn't watch this movie for a few years probably after it came out. I think I kind of it escaped me, and it took me a minute to get back to it. But watching it, it's not the movie that I thought it was necessarily. Just based on the trailers, I thought it was more of, just kind of a buddy cop movie, which it is, but it's also extremely gory for being for what the trailers kind of set it up to be. The movie is actually extremely gory. Every murder in the movie is just so violent and just surprisingly violent, which is a physical form of comedy in itself, especially if you are into the kind of movies that I'm into. Yeah, it's great cast, a lot of the same faces from Shaun of the Dead, but overall, even though I think of the movie as being a fantastic film, it is one that for some reason in my mind is kind of forgettable, and maybe it's just rewatchability. When I go to watch an Edgar Wright movie, it's like Shaun of the Dead is generally the one that I'll watch because I know, it's just because I love it so much. Hot Fuzz is a great follow-up, but I just haven't really spent time rewatching this one, and I think there's a lot of people that are going to hate me for that.
No,
well, it's a fantastic movie.
It is a fantastic movie, and the things, it's almost like like you said, it completely sells one thing and then it turns into something else, but in the best possible way. There's a lot of movies that do that, and it turns out to be horrible. This one, like you said, it sets up maybe an action movie, maybe a buddy cop romp kind of thing. And then it's I don't remember what the first death is, but just seeing the steeple, like impale the guy through the top of the head. And then the lady cut her own throat or something with the shears. It's just absolutely, and that is the joke. Like you said, that's part of the joke. That's right. Just the pure spectacle and shock of the violence. It just makes you giggle because it's so out of place. Even what is it, Timothy Dalton's character at the end.
Yeah, they're fighting in that the miniature city. Like that is amazing because it's just shot so beautifully. Like it's shot almost Godzilla-esque. Like it's all really low, so you get the scale of like how big they are within the city. And then yeah, that final like push where his head goes through, like the spike goes through his head. Yeah, super violent. Like just unexpectedly crazy violent, and I love it.
And he totally lives too, which that's another funny thing. It's just like all like the main bad guys, they just kind of like lock him up. They don't go and kill a bunch of people or anything. It's just like, and then the thing that I remember also is that it sets it up to like being more like towards the end, once we get the reveal. I thought it kind of sets it up into this kind of big, almost like a demon worshiping thing. But then it's just kind of flat. Like the reasoning, they're just like, nope, we just want to be better people or something like that. And I just remember that was part of the joke too, where it seemed like the plot was setting up for a bigger reveal payoff, but the fact that it wasn't was almost a parody of that style movie too. And I remember that. I don't remember details, and I apologize, but it was that was one thing where I was just like, what? Like it took me a second to appreciate how funny and how fun Hot Fuzz is because of all the mismatch and what you think it's going to be to what it is. So it was one that you had to chew on a little bit, but yeah, unfortunately it's not one of my favorite. It's a lot of people's favorite, which I was very surprised of. And I'll real quick, I did a Twitter poll, yesterday, I think, and I asked, what everyone's favorite Edgar Wright film is, and Twitter only lets you put 4 spaces, so I didn't even leave or put Hot Fuzz on there because I didn't think it was going to be kind of in the upper echelon. I put, Shaun of the Dead, Scott Pilgrim, and Baby Driver, and then I put other, and I got a lot more Hot Fuzzes in the other than I was expecting, so it really made me want to rewatch the film, but instead I had to watch some that I haven't seen. So yeah, that's all I have to say about Hot Fuzz.
All right. Well, moving on from Hot Fuzz, we got one of the movies that I think is probably what really kicked off the style over substance. Scott Pilgrim versus the World. This movie is style from beginning to end. This movie, I mean, but it's substance too, but it is style. Like no movie before or since has been like this movie. Like I fell in love with this movie immediately when I saw it. I was unfamiliar with the comic book series and the video game and all that stuff. Like Scott Pilgrim was not something I was even aware of, but this movie blew my mind. Like I saw this movie in theaters with a group of friends. We walked out absolutely loving it. I've still never seen anything like it. I don't even really know how to express it. Just one of my favorite things about Edgar Wright is transitions, and this movie, the transitions in this film are just superior above probably all of his films. But I mean, every movie he has, the transitions are just fantastic. And something I wanted to mention earlier, just when we were talking about him in general, is that his style has been like immortalized within the vlogging community. I think that major vloggers like Casey Neistat, Peter McKinnon, like they utilize Edgar Wright's transition style, like to a point where now people are copying Casey Neistat, but I think Casey Neistat was copying Edgar Wright the whole time.
Sure.
I see those influences in his vlog, but also in like the Neistat brothers, like his HBO series. His HBO series is it's edited like an Edgar Wright movie. And I've never heard him once discuss Edgar Wright as being like a filmmaker that inspired him, but it had to have. Like I can't look at that and not think Edgar Wright when I watch it.
Yeah. Oh man, this film again. Yeah, like you said, completely took me by storm. I don't even remember. I remember seeing it in the theater, but I don't even remember why. Like we went. I mean, I think I just came off of watching Arrested Development, and I liked Michael Cera just fine. So I'm like, okay, cool. This looks fun. And then just like the opening sequence when they're all playing in the band, just the music is fantastic. Oh God, it's so good. It's the best video game movie of all time. Because technically it is a video game movie. Just not even close. It's like watching an anime. It's like watching a video game movie. Style and substance, everything. It was written so snappy. It made watching Michael Cera take a piss very entertaining. He goes in the bathroom to the Zelda music and he has a piss bar. It's just like, who hasn't thought of that in their head? You know, someone that plays video games. Just the story was fantastic. I think this was kind of, I'm probably going to mess up her name, but Emily Elizabeth Winstead. I think this was her breakout role.
Mary
Elizabeth Winstead. She's just fantastic. And then, I mean, talk about a cast. I mean, you have Brandon Roth in it. You have a very young, obnoxious Chris Evans, when Chris Evans was just doing obnoxious roles before he was, you know, a more grounded. Yeah, he wasn't Captain America yet. He was just a douche, and he was a douche in pretty much every movie, which just makes it so great just to see him like that again.
Right, when he was cast as Captain America, I was like, but he always plays a douche. Like, how is he supposed to be the greatest guy in the world?
He even played his other superhero character like a douche, like Human Torch. He was terrible.
Yeah,
but
I love in this movie every time Scott Pilgrim like defeats one of the ex-boyfriends, like they just like turn into coins, and he's like, "Oh, change!" Like, he's just like, "Oh, here's some quarters," like just nonchalant. Like I love when his hair, like he gets self-conscious about his hair, and there's like this just this quick cut. He's got his beanie on, just like over his head, like stuff like that. Just the physical humor on top of the dialogue and everything just works so well in this movie. Along with just the style, like when what's the one girl, Knives, when Knives is like expressing how much she loves them, and like the words come out like the whole like I love you thing, like I love it so much. Like this is a comic book transition to film, like in the most perfect sense ever. I would put Scott Pilgrim in the World or versus the World probably in like a #1 spot, or at least a contender to be like the best comic book like adaptation. Like it feels like a comic book, and it doesn't take away from it, because sometimes you can make it feel too comic booky, like a movie feel too comic booky and not really work. But this, like Edgar Wright knew exactly the kind of movie he was making the entire time making this. Like this movie is basically flawless. I don't see an issue with this movie whatsoever, and I don't see an issue with the majority of his work.
Yeah, and Jason Schwartzman is just absolutely fantastic in this role. And like I said, I think that Shaun, it's really bizarre, and I kind of told you this off air, but I think Shaun of the Dead is my favorite Edgar Wright film, because to me, like I love Scott Pilgrim so much, but sometimes I'm like, I forget that that's an Edgar Wright film, because it's just so different. It's its own thing. Like you said, it's its own beast. There's nothing else like it, not even like other Edgar Wright films. So to me, like Edgar Wright films, I think Shaun of the Dead's my favorite, but I think I would put Scott Pilgrim versus the World in my top 5 movies of all time. Like I could rewatch it all the time. I could never get bored. There's not an ounce of fat on it. Yeah, and Ted said, Ted's in the chat, he says, not ex-boyfriends, exes. That's true. They weren't all
It's true. They were not all boyfriends.
Yeah, it's just I love that movie so much. All right, what do we got next?
Next we have what I would call just a slight disappointment for myself. The World's End. I was so excited for this movie because at this point in Edgar Wright's career, I was like in. I was 100%. I was ready for this next film. This was the, this was the end of the Cornetto trilogy right here. Like, I mean, this is the movie that capped it off. I was just my expectations were probably just too high, and that's my problem. But I went into the theaters. I enjoyed the movie. Don't get me wrong. I thought it was fun. I really did enjoy it from beginning to end. Like, I got a lot of good laughs. I mean, it's excellently crafted and put together. I mean, it's definitely Edgar Wright. I enjoyed the final scene at the end where it's all post-apocalyptic and all that stuff. But overall, it's just kind of falls flat in the comedy aspect. Like, it's very well put together. I cannot debate that. Like, it's very well put together. Like, the characters are well crafted. It's just on the comedy side of things, it's just kind of flat for me.
Yeah, I think Simon Pegg, this is one of his best performances. I absolutely love this character.
Yeah. Oh, he's totally great. He's totally great. Like Nick Frost playing like the more straight edge kind of guy. Like, oh, I quit drinking. Like the sequence when he says that he's not drinking, and then it just like cuts to everybody getting a beer poured, and then he gets a water and it drinks through, and you see that transition through the glass into Simon Pegg's face. Beautiful. Like, I mean, that is like super creative filmmaking. but it's just but the overall movie, like, it's just kind of falls in like just a flat tire. And you know what? I haven't really rewatched this movie. I've only seen it the one time. But there are moments that really stick with me because it's just I was such a big fan at the time that when I watched it, I felt like, and I was older and I just really like took it all in. But I just don't think that. I think that maybe if I rewatched it now, I might get more enjoyment out of it because my expectations, like, I know what to expect at this point. I feel like it's a movie I need to revisit to like really properly assess like how I feel about it.
Yeah, and I just watched this movie for the very first time yesterday, so it's still pretty fresh. I think I agree with you 100%. I think it's definitely the weakest of the three of the unofficial trilogy. I think that the opening sequence was great. I loved the montage of him. I love the premise of it. Actually, I loved this movie, and I was going to put it up there a lot further until the MacGuffin happens, and I think that probably was a problem because, you know, that's supposed to be an Edgar Wright film. It's supposed to go over the top and crazy and a big party. But I actually, you know, just loved him kind of gathering up the gang. I love them going from place to place. If it was just that and just like more of a, I don't know, more of just like a dialogue piece of him and his friends, I would have been absolutely more happy with it than what we got. Because once it kind of hits the fan, I thought the CG was bad, and not terrible, but it wasn't Edgar Wright, and it was definitely the weakest CG of any of the other and effects in general of any of the other ones. I think the idea, the story was kind of fell flat. I thought the fight sequences, it just was so formulaic after a while that I was
Right.
It was supposed to be, right? Because they're just supposed to go to the club and everything. But then it's like now they're going to the pubs and they're getting into fights. And now they're going into pubs and they're getting into fights. And it's so predictable, especially with oh God, what's his name? Bilbo's character.
Bilbo's character.
Yeah. Shit, what's his he's like the most well-known.
Yeah.
Him.
Yeah. Martin Freeman.
Martin Freeman.
Right.
And he's just literally playing Martin Freeman in it. But yeah, I thought I called that like way in advance, and then the ending was in Edgar Wright films, and more so in like something like Baby Driver, which we'll talk about, it just goes so over the top at the end and so crazy, which is kind of, it's like a roller coaster ride. He always knows how to make a climax of the films, but this one, the climax of the film is Simon Pegg talking to a floating. He even says it. I'm talking, fuck off, lamp, or whatever he says, And it's just so blah. Like everything about it fell flat. Rosamund Pike's in it, and she doesn't really do much.
The problem with the end is it's the first time in an Edgar Wright movie where it's no longer visual storytelling. Like the scene when he's talking to the lamp is is very much, it's just a scene full of exposition to explain the movie. And Edgar Wright is one of the most brilliant visual storytellers. And at this point in his career, I think fans have grown accustomed to being shown and not told. And there's an entire sequence where they're just going to tell you the plot to the movie, because obviously we don't know it at this point because they haven't been able to really show us it. So they're like, oh, we should just tell them what's going on because, like, people are stupid. But it's not. It's the first time that I felt like in an Edgar Wright movie where I was treated like I was stupid, and that's my biggest pet peeve in a film and in life in general. Is I don't like to be treated like I'm stupid. I hate when movies tell me and have to explain things to me. In that sense, like I would rather be shown. And this is a movie where you're not shown; you're just told the plot, and it's just a little bit of a downer. But I mean, as far as like the movie is put together, like the action sequences are extreme. They're very well shot. I will agree that the CG isn't the greatest in that. And it's just very cartoony for how the movie sets itself up. If it would have set itself up more like a Scott Pilgrim or something like that, where the cartooniness was like allowed, it probably wouldn't have been so jarring. But because it's like so grounded and then it's super cartoony is like where it comes out. But the actual action sequences, the way that they're put together, and the transitions between like the fight sequences are actually done really well. It's just after the initial one, which is jarring because of the CG, it's just like, I don't know how I feel about this. And then it just goes like sequence after sequence, and you're just like, well, now this is boring because it's just over and over and over again. So it's just, it takes you off guard, but then once you're like, all right, I accept it, it just continues to do the same thing over and over and over. It's like, it's cool.
Yeah.
But then it's like, yeah, it almost becomes visual noise at a certain point.
Yeah, yeah. And it's written well. The characters are great. It's like, it's weird. It's all the pieces are good, just not good together. And
I love that. I love that. All the pieces are good, they're just not good together. That's a perfect way to describe this movie.
yeah, it's so disappointing. And I did something that I almost never do, especially when I'm watching a film and then I know we're doing this, is right afterwards, I just felt so like, I felt like a dummy because I'm like, so did I not get it? Or did people really not like this film? So I went on like Stuckman, and I went on Jeremy Johns just to see. I mean, this movie's been out for years.
Right.
So I'm just like, okay, is it just me, or did people feel this way? Freaking Stuckman like gushed over this movie. He gave it an A+. He's just like, there's not a boring moment. It's perfect. It's this, it's that. And then like after that, I'm like, what? And then I watch his thing for Baby Driver, A-. I'm just like, okay, I guess he grew as a film reviewer and whatever. I mean, if you love this movie, if this is your favorite movie from Edgar Wright, to each his own. I know one person on Twitter said that.
I wouldn't call the movie a bad movie.
Right.
It's not a bad movie. It's just at this point in his career, I had expectations that weren't met, which is why I think that I need to rewatch the movie, because I did enjoy it. When I walked into a theater, I went and saw this with Laura, and she didn't really care for it. And I like fought for the movie. Like the whole ride home was like, no, it was great. And like, I just like kept talking, like kept doing it. And then like, but by the time I got home, I was just like, but was it really that great? And, like really, like I really like reflected on it. I was like, well, maybe I just love the director so much that I'm like arguing for it, and I wanted it to be as good as I expected, and it just didn't quite live up to it, you know?
Yeah,
and it happens. Sometimes I fanboy, or sometimes I Phantom Menace it. It happens.
Yeah, I've been known to Phantom Menace some things, but I will never Attack of the Clones things, because that's
dude. Thank you. I think Attack of the Clones is the worst Star Wars movie ever made.
Not close. I'll still rewatch Phantom Menace. I watched all of the Star Wars 6 movies with my son before I think Force Awakens came out or whatever, and he was, this was a couple years ago, so I think he was like 8 years old, and I literally couldn't find episode 2, and I'm just like, nope, that's fine. You don't need to see it because nothing happens.
I'm just out of curiosity, I pulled up The World's End on Rotten Tomatoes. And it does have an 89% from critics, which I think is actually kind of high. Audience scores a 71%, which is probably where I more agree with. Like 71% being still a fresh movie.
Yeah.
But because just overall story structure, just editing and the way it's put together, it's great. But
I'm sorry, I'm reading the chat, and it's pretty funny. I have a MTG strategist says this chat doesn't give any clues as to what we're talking about. That's pretty funny. Yeah. So Ted from Card Sphere, MTG strategist, and Coach from Card Bazaar have joined us. But yeah, I mean, it's weird. I mean, I think we spent the most time on The World's End more than the movies that we like. So I guess that's saying something.
I think it's because we love the director so much, and we're just like trying to give him a little bit of credit.
It's a therapy session. We're like, come on, man. Yeah. Well, everyone deserves a slump, and it just sucks that this slump came as the kind of the it's again unofficial climax to the unofficial trilogy. And yeah, like you said, I did like the end scene where it's like post-apocalyptic, but then the very last frame that didn't go anywhere either. I'm just like,
no, it doesn't really go anywhere, but I really I kind of want to see that movie though. I want to see Edgar Wright's take this cast and put them in a post-apocalyptic world. I kind of want to see that. I'm very curious to what that movie would be.
Yeah, that's fair. And it did have the whole nice twist on it where the blanks are now the, you know, minority in this thing, and they're kind of the good guys now. I don't know. There was some fun. I do like that. And I forgot his name again, Bilbo. I like how he just kind of went back to his life, except, you know, without missing half of his face. He has now a wrap on his head with like a smiley face.
Yeah, I you know, I mean, the movie is like obviously like, you know, like a social commentary about like kind of like where the next generation's heading.
Right.
And you know, and it's like, I understand it, and I didn't feel like it was like heavy-handed in its concept, but at the same time, I just felt like, I don't know, as a whole, for what I was expecting, it kind of fell flat. I will also say,
we can't stop talking about this movie.
no, this is not to do with the movie, but 9% an empty stomach is just not. I mean, I'm just going to start rambling for way too long. I'm about to open number 2.
Oh, good. Look at you, man. This is a first, ladies and gentlemen. Tony Walter's out drinking me. All right, I'll catch up. All right,
this is a first of me probably actually being drunk on the podcast, because I just drink normal beer. I drink PBR all the time. Anyway,
yeah.
So we moving on.
I mean, we could just rehash The World's End if you want. I mean, it's fitting with the beer theme, but yeah, let's please move on.
All right. Well, we're gonna move on to, and I hate to say it, in a sense, but this is my favorite. I think this is my favorite Edgar Wright movie, Baby Driver, and I didn't expect it to be going into it. I actually was like, I was not impressed by the trailers to this movie at all.
Right.
Based on the trailers, I was like, all right, like I don't know, I just didn't really care, and I hated that the main character's name was Baby, and I was just like, I don't know what I think about this, but it's Edgar Wright, so I'm gonna go see it. And you know, The World's End was the last movie he had put out, and the Ant-Man debacle. Can we discuss that real quick?
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that, and I do want to talk about Paul too.
Okay, but Baby Driver, going into it, I was like, I just don't know how I feel about it. And when I walked out of this movie, I mean, you can go to my to Rad Entertainment, to the channel, and watch mine and Rebecca's review on this one.
Please do.
But this movie, man, this movie blew my mind. I loved this movie so much.
This was your favorite movie of that year, right?
Yeah. It's my favorite movie of 2017. I love this movie so much. I love the music, and just to throw back to all the movies we've talked about previous too. One of the things I love about Edgar Wright is his ability to edit to music.
Yes.
And that's also one of the things, right, when I talk about vlogging, is like that's a key element in vlogging, is editing the music. And this is edited to music, to the beat. The action is choreographed to the beat, which is done in a lot of his previous movies, but this movie is like borderline a musical. Like,
yeah,
the way that the music like tells this story, along with just like the visual storytelling elements, are amazing. This is a movie that very much shows it doesn't tell, because the main character barely talks. Like,
right.
I love the movie so much. It's visual storytelling, practical effects, practical stunts. All the car stuff is like, there's no CG cars in this movie. It's not a Fast and Furious movie. Like, all the stunts are real.
Thank God.
All the characters are extremely like interesting, impressive characters. I don't know. The comedy aspect works through the roof. I think the movie's it's hilarious. My only issue is that I love the movie so much that Kevin Spacey had to go and fucking ruin it all like 2 weeks after the movie came out.
Oh yeah. Okay, in real life.
In real life, yes. It's like, I liked Kevin Spacey, and now hashtag fuck Spacey. But,
yeah. And can we just and just going off that real quick? Hashtag fuck Chris Hartman. I mean, this man, or Hardwick, not Phil Hartman, God rest his soul. Fuck you, Chris Hardwick. Like, I trying to be you for so long. Like, you're one of my biggest influences, and you have to be a creep too. Anyone else want to come out and be a creep just so we could, you know, Louis C.K.'s and Kevin Spacey's, all these people that I love and hold dear.
All right, I'll talk to you after the show. I got words.
I was so mad. I just beat Aquaman's ass. If you didn't see that, I just ripped Aquaman and just fucked him off. All right. What were we saying now?
Baby Driver. It's a fantastic movie. That's what we're saying.
Yes. Yes, it is. Another one.
Watched this one too, right?
Yes. So I watched them at the same day. I watched Baby Driver first, then I watched The World's End.
Okay. The other way around.
So, best opening sequence I've ever seen in a movie. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. So good. The music, the car chase. Like, I'm not a big car chase person. I haven't liked a car chase since The Matrix. Oh, are you?
Yeah, I love car chases. I really do. I love crime movies, and I love a really good car chase. I really do. I love like Gone in 60 Seconds. Awesome.
Oh, yeah, I do love Gone in 60. That's true. But this was just absolutely fantastic. It opens up with just nothing but style. You have John Bernthal. You have which I thought was chronically underused, unfortunately.
Yes.
Unfortunately, and then John Hamm was. I mean, in this movie, it made me want John Hamm as Negan, and I know he auditioned for Negan in The Walking Dead. Again, I wish he would have gotten the role because he would have done such a fantastic job. He's too good for Negan.
I want him as Batman.
Ooh, yeah. Or Harvey Dent.
So bad I want him as Batman. Harvey Dent would be pretty cool too, though.
Yeah, I love John Hamm so much. Okay, back on track. Okay, so Ansel Elgort, what did you think about him? Were you nervous about him?
You know, in all honesty, I had no idea who the kid was. So like him being the lead in an Edgar Wright movie, I was like, who is this kid? And his name's Baby. I was very turned off by the trailer. I really honestly did not think I was gonna like this movie.
Yeah. And it looked like an Italian Job thing or something.
Right.
Oh, you love the Italian Job.
I love the Italian Job, so space. But because I love car chases. But anyway.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, you know, he's singing the music, the windshield wipers going to the beat, and like there's the robbery and all that stuff. I was like, all right, you know, like the sequence is awesome, but I still don't know about this kid. And then like when he's delivering the coffee and the song's playing, I can't remember the song, but like if you pay attention to the background of that scene, the words to the song are written all over the walls and the ground and everything. It's amazing. It's so it's just so beautifully done. But and then he like goes in, like he like, you know, he's just like, you know, they're like named, he's like Baby, she's like Baby, he's like Baby. Like I just like immediately I was like, all right, I get the swagger and the character. Like the character is such a like he's kind of a douche, like in like the not like a douche, but like a romantic. I don't know. I don't know how to describe him.
He's just very confident. He's an overachiever.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, it's like he comes off like if I don't know. It's like if I saw that dude in real life, I'd be like kind of a douche.
Right.
But when you get to understand his character and like his love for music and like who he is, I don't know. It's just swagger. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's the best way I can describe it. And I there was a point in the movie where I was like, I love this character. Like I was like on my walls were up. I was guarded the whole time. And like I don't know exactly when it happened, but there's a point where I was just like, it's so good though. Like he's just a very compelling character.
Well, the thing is, he's in a room with other characters that are larger than life. You know, John Hamm's a little bit more resolved, but John Bernthal was just like overgoing the whole, you know, evil gangster thing. Jamie Kevin Fox. Spacey's being Kevin Spacey. Jamie Foxx, we'll get to Jamie Foxx. Is just such a, oh my God, just bats, right? Batshit crazy. And I think in the context of the movie, you have these over the top like super villains, and then there's this kid that's just in the corner. And it doesn't matter if he's good at his job or not. Just the fact that he is like, they're all so boisterous. They're telling people and they're telling the audience how badass they are. But we really see that he's just such a badass because he's so great at his job.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about this movie is that it sets it up as like a really fun action movie. And then, like every Edgar Wright film, in that third act, shit just hits the fan and it becomes a real damn movie. Yeah. And like these, what you described as supervillains, like you realize at that point in the movie, like these are villains. Like these are bad guys. And when people really start dying, you're just like, oh shit, I really did not expect there to be consequences. Like, right. When we watch movies like Fast and the Furious and like superhero movies and things like that, there's never consequences. You know, characters are going to make it out alive. In this movie, I really thought like, oh shit, Baby could die in this movie. Like, I don't, you know, this is a completely original story. Like the way it's set up is he's definitely our hero, but I have no idea what's going to happen with this character.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
that's just, and there's well, I'm here to echo. There's a couple of weak points to it. It wasn't a perfect movie, and not even my favorite, you know, amongst the ones that we've talked about. Fantastic. One of the weak points to me is Lily James, and it's not even the love story. I actually bought that. You know, I heard a lot of flack, and people were griping about, oh, she was just so suddenly smitten and she was just so easily to throw in. But it's just like, think about it. She's this like kind of she's a young romantic, I think, and this kind of mysterious guy, you know, drives into her life, and so she kind of buys into it. She buys into this kind of fairy tale thing. I get that. I think the problem was her. I didn't like her acting at all in this.
Really?
Yeah,
I'm on the opposite side. I think that when I think about it, at least, well, my perspective on life has recently changed pretty drastically, but I think that at the time I wasn't buying into the relationship, and I think that now I might even buy into it a little bit more. I actually really like her performance in it. I understand not liking her performance, but I think that no matter who was in that role, this is the performance that Edgar Wright wanted. I think this is how he wanted this character to be. Like, yeah. I don't care, you know, you put the best actress ever into that role, I think you're still going to get it, because Edgar Wright, I feel like he draws what he wants out of people really well. And I think that this is the performance he wanted. It wasn't that she couldn't give him the performance he wanted. I think this is it. I think it's just, on the writing side, it is a little bit far-fetched to believe that she's just so into this guy, like, with only going on like a couple of dates, like like, I get that, but looking at like where she is at in her life, and then this guy comes up and like sweeps her off her feet, like, I've been there, you know, dudes sweep me off my feet all the
time. Yeah, dudes, you know, ask you to be on a YouTube show every once in a while, and
exactly.
You're butter in my hands. No, no, but I mean, I think maybe to your point, she's a little underwritten, because we literally know nothing about her. But she, you know, but you could kind of color in the lines and fill in the blanks, because it is almost such a, I don't know, like, I don't want to say stereotype, but it is just like the classic romantic, and you know, she played Cinderella in the live action, so I saw a lot of correlation there. Maybe that was a choice, because she does have that kind of like princess type thing, and this was almost like an urban Cinderella. You know, she's just like a waitress at a diner. But again, you know, yes, the character was underwritten, but I don't know, even against the other girl, and I don't remember her name. Darling, I thought she was fantastic. She was absolutely amazing.
Their relationship, Darling and John Hamm, buddy,
yeah.
Like, their relationship, I will agree. Like, their relationship is a stronger relationship as far as like what you express. Like, when she dies and Buddy goes nuts, like, you get it. Like, yeah. you buy into that 100%. Like, there's
absolutely
no doubt. But yeah, I understand. And that's the thing, is I just didn't buy into Baby and Deborah's relationship, but Buddy and Darling, I mean, that's a strong. But I don't know, their relationship's like that's like I don't know. I wish I could write that well. Yeah. I'm in the process right now of writing a crime movie, and that's what I want in this movie. I want a relationship like that strong.
Like Buddy and Darling, or like Baby and Deborah.
Yeah, like Buddy and Darling. Like. You don't even really know who these people are. Like, when they really take a turn to be bad guys, like, you're like, oh shit, these guys are bad guys. Like, because Buddy sets himself up as being kind of the nice guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's grooving out with he's always standing up for Baby and everything. He's grooving out to his jams.
He respects him.
He relates to him.
He's a professional.
Yeah.
But at his core, he is a bad guy. Like, and when Darling's like, what'd she say? Like, bats made a pass at me or something like that. He's like, you want me to kill bats? Like, I'm just like, oh shit. Like,
and you bought it. I mean, they were the kind of analog Bonnie and Clyde. And it just worked so well, because, you know, Bonnie and Clyde historically have been kind of charismatic or whatever. And they definitely were. You completely bought into that relationship. There was one, and this wasn't one of the other things that I didn't like, but one thing that just kind of bothered me in the context where he's just like, where Kevin Spacey's character, he buys him and or he buys babies in Lily James's character's dinner or whatever, after Baby thought he was out of the, he repaid the debt, so to speak, and he thought he was out of it. And then he's just like, I never used the same crew twice except you. You're always been my driver. You're my good luck charm. And that's why he kind of wouldn't let him go. But then at the very next scene, in the very next heist, there wasn't, in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't even that high stakes of a heist, because it was, if Kevin Spacey, and this is like huge spoilers, but if Kevin Spacey did own those cops, so to speak, the one that Jamie Foxx freaked out on, then why did he have to use like kind of the best of the best, the all-stars, so to speak, to pull that one off? That, I don't know why it bothered me, but it bothered me.
It bothered me too. And I feel like there's got to be a deleted scene that kind of explains it or something.
Yeah.
Because I don't know that it was like best of the best. I think it was like, I don't use the same crew twice as like a whole, maybe. Like maybe he uses random guys a couple of times. I don't know. Like just as a whole, maybe he doesn't. But also being like the boss and giving everybody all the information they need to do a job, wouldn't you be like, hey, these are fucking cops? Like,
right? What a bad crime boss.
To let you know. Like,
yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Jamie Foxx. Oh man, I think he stole the show. That he was Motherfucker Jones again. He reprised his role, but just so like I love how he's just so crazy, because it shows. Like John Bernthal was kind of, and Jamie Foxx, they were similar in character, because they were just kind of the loose cannons, the ones that got the shit done at all costs. Right. But then my favorite scene actually the opening scene was just great, but one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when they're all sitting at the diner, when they kind of drag Baby reluctantly in, and Jamie Foxx is challenging the Bonnie and Clyde, Buddy and Darling, and it just shows you why he is where he is. He knows people, and he could guess people like right away. I loved that they gave him so much depth.
Yeah, I totally agree. Jamie Foxx is a guy that it's hard for me to watch him and not go, that's Jamie Foxx. You know what I mean? Like, it's but in that movie, he became this guy, like this character for me, and I was able to expand my disbelief or whatever, expand my disbelief.
Sure.
But yeah, he's the character that made me go, oh wow, these are really bad guys, and things could get really serious. Like the way that it foreshadows like what's about to happen, you're just like, oh no, there are actual stakes in this film, and it's because of his character. His character is the one that kind of sets off everything else. Like it puts the risk out there. And that sequence when they're at that diner is a edgier sequence. When I saw that in theaters, I was like, oh no, I really don't know. You know what I mean? You're just like, where is this going to go? And it pans out just so beautifully. And when that's the scene. And that's why I love Edgar Wright, because for the majority of his films, he writes amazing protagonists and gives every protagonist in all of his films have a moment where their morals are challenged and they become a real person. And this is that scene in Baby Driver where he has to pretend like he doesn't know Deborah, because he loves her so much that he has to, in order to save her life, he has to pretend like he doesn't know her, which breaks her heart. And it's a beautiful scene. The only movie where he doesn't do that is Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Mm-hmm. He plays the opposite of that. It's right. In Scott Pilgrim, it's like a character that doesn't belong in the world, viewing this crazy world, and we're a part of that trip with him. Where in all of the other movies, you have this very emotional scene, emotional attachment with your protagonist, and this movie does it very, very well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's perfectly said. Like you said, he does protagonist great, even in a movie like The World's End. God, we're talking about that again. That was the best part of it. Of course, Simon Pegg is fantastic, but he just gave him so much depth and everything in that, and also in this one where you have, and that's a fun dichotomy too, because he was such a over the top character in that, and then the character of Baby is so restrained because he kind of has to be. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And I just want to quickly say the thing that I didn't like and this is, and you probably won't agree with me here, but I think that in Edgar Wright films, like I said before, he knows how to climax films perfectly. In this one, it felt fast and a little lazy and a little over the top as far as in context to the rest of the film. I thought that the final scene kind of between, what happens with Kevin Spacey and then between Baby and Buddy, I don't know. It was just like, just the way it ends. It's just like, okay, now we push him off the thing and then it catches on fire and then he falls on there and then a big explosion. I don't know. It just felt it felt too silly and too dumb for how smart the rest of the movie was.
I will drastically disagree with that. I loved it so much. But I think that if you take that ending and you put it in the first act, like compared to the first act, I will agree it's drastically different. Like tonally drastically different. But I think that with the entire car chase sequence at the end, with Baby like on foot running from everybody, with like the shootout, like right when Buddy's girlfriend dies.
Yeah, Darling.
When Darling, like right after Darling dies, and Buddy's like doing the shootout with the cops, I feel like things escalate in a way that makes that final scene work for me at least.
Okay.
Like, I will agree that it is drastically different from the tone that is set up at the beginning of the movie, but I think that the way that it escalates, like it does it in a way that is that it worked really well for me. The thing that almost doesn't, it works, but it's just like after that scene when Buddy dies, it's like it could have been the end of the movie, but then they ride it out and you get to see what happens and Baby gets arrested and all that stuff. Like that sequence felt like it made the movie just a little too long.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't necessarily need that, but at the same time, now knowing the complete story and what happens, it grounds it back into the first act, like grounds it back into reality. So it's like I didn't necessarily need it. Like I felt like, oh, here's our big hype and boom, we're done. Oh, we're not done. Here's this final sequence that's gonna just kind of
it was like them telling you what the characters are up to afterwards in like dialogue boxes, but actually showing it instead of just spelling it out.
Telling it, yeah. And which I appreciate, but at the same time, it's like as much as I was like, oh, now it's like oh, all this crazy stuff, oof, and it just like dropped to just like this lull of an ending. But at the same time, it was like when I was seeing it first in theaters, I was like, oh, I just feel like it just slowed to such a halt, like, and I don't need this. Yeah. But I also really like how well it grounded it again. So.
This was the Grand Theft Auto movie that I didn't know I wanted. It was, I mean, if Grand Theft Auto ever becomes an actual film, I mean, you have your director, hands down, the best car chase scenes, the best heist scenes. It's funny to say that because you never really see the heist. You see just Baby kind of jamming out in the car in both of them. Even in the one where they're all wearing Austin Power masks,
right. They Reservoir Dogs it.
Yeah, exactly, in the best possible way. But it does have that classic Edgar Wright, zoom cuts and all that. And
can I just say, I mean, I know that joke was in the trailer, but that's like one of the best jokes in the movie. The whole Mike Myers mask thing. It's so damn funny.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we talked about, while we were talking about Tarantino, it's just like, like if you're going to show tension, show the opening sequence of Inglourious Bastards to film students. If you're going to show, oh, now I lost my train. If you're going to show something, show this. No, but it's just like, oh man, I was really going somewhere with that. And now I don't remember. Damn this. I'm trying to
edit to music. Or cut action to music.
That too.
The opening sequence, the sequence when they shoot the cops down, the way that's edited to the beat of a song, so awesome. Like
editing, yes, exactly. That's what I was trying to say. If you're gonna show something, and teach people editing or just an editorial masterpiece, that's Baby Driver. Dude. It is editing like perfection.
a side note on how they shot this movie, just a little behind the scenes info. They edited this film on set. They shot the scene.
I remember that.
Immediately into the editor and was doing a rough edit to be like, what shot do we need to make this work? And then just boom, like that is insane. Like as a filmmaker and editor, that's insane. Like, but it's insane, but it's genius. Like if we had the budget to pull something like that off, where we could just shoot something, dump it in, and be like, okay, we need to get another close up of this to make this scene work.
Right.
Like that is genius, and that's why I love the movie so much, because I feel like for me, I wouldn't say it's a perfect movie, and I mean. And and the weird thing is I think that Shaun of the Dead is probably the most perfect film of his, and even Scott Pilgrim I feel like is a perfect film.
Yeah.
But Baby Driver for me personally, I wouldn't say that it's a perfect movie. I do have issues with it, but it is my favorite. I thoroughly enjoy this movie so much. And I think it's because I'm a big crime movie fan. So like this is Edgar Wright's crime movie, so that's probably why it's my favorite. Super compelling characters, but like just from a filmmaking standpoint, like to be able to like shoot this, immediately start editing while we're filming and be like, okay, we need another scene, we need another angle here to just like make the scene smoother. Like that's why I think this movie is so great. Is the like that I've never heard of a movie doing that ever. Like that's just, I don't know, it's insane.
Especially
so much work.
Especially well now, like why maybe this should be the gold standard, because like I said, it's editing. The editing on this movie is just absolutely flawless. Yeah, and before we get into the other things, man, I just I just keep mentally shitting the bed on this. So before we close out, I did want to talk about some other things. As far as things that because I forgot the name of his studio. It's like I think it's A World Apart or something like that. They were, and we talked about this during the Kevin Smith director's cut, and another movie came out, and that's Paul, and that also came out when everyone was collaborating with the Apatow group. You had Apatow collaborating with Adam Sandler. They made Funny People. Then you had him collaborating with Kevin Smith. That's when Zack and Mary Made a Porno came out. And then they also, at the time when we were talking about the Kevin Smith director's cut, I forgot that they did this with the Simon Pegg, Nick Frost group, and they came out with Paul. And you have a lot of those kind of Judd Apatow-ish people in there, and it's directed by Greg Moratoro. What is it? Matala? So, the guy that did Superbad, Adventureland, who's, in my opinion, a very underrated director. I love his films.
Maybe we'll do a cut on him.
Day Trippers and everything. I think he's actually a fantastic director. Maybe down the road we could cover him too. But Paul, I think was sneaky good, man. I thought Paul was a lot of fun. Yes, it wasn't Edgar Wright, and this is an Edgar Wright spotlight, but it had the same kind of writing, the same kind of filmmaking as the other ones.
Yeah, I like Paul, but at the same time, I feel like it is like an Edgar Wright knockoff. Like it was like, hey, we're going to use Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, so because we're using these two guys,
we're going to shoot it like that.
Shoot and edit this movie kind of like an Edgar Wright movie.
Yeah.
I do enjoy the movie thoroughly. Like I had a good time watching it. I've seen it a couple of times. Like I think it's a funny movie. I really do enjoy it, but it does, for me, just feel like a little bit of an Edgar Wright knockoff. Yeah. But I don't hold that against it. I understand what they were doing and where they were going with it. This was during the time, if I remember correctly, 2011. So like that was the year after Scott Pilgrim came out. Like Edgar Wright had a pretty big lull between Scott Pilgrim and well, not so much The World's End. The World's End was, I can't remember exactly. I just had it up here.
Yeah, but I know what you mean. It was like a blood relative to get us to the next one, kind of thing.
But yeah, exactly. And then he had a giant lull between The World's End and Baby Driver. World's End was 2013, and Baby Driver was just last year. So I mean, there's like a 4-year gap there, but that's because of the whole Ant-Man debacle.
Yeah,
Ant-Man.
Let's talk about that. I mean, I remember.
Dude, people really like the Ant-Man movie, and I'm a guy that doesn't. I don't like. I mean, it's fine. Like
I liked it.
It's funny, but it's, in all honesty, it's like a safe movie for me, and there's a lot of it that drives me insane. I just want to know what that looks like. I want to know what the Ant-Man Edgar Wright movie looks like. Like, just taking Scott Pilgrim versus the World, like what a movie that I consider one of the best comic book movies of all time. Like, I want to know what that looks like. I want to know what an Ant-Man Edgar Wright film looks like, because I bet it's better.
Well, absolutely. And when they spoiled that Ant-Man was coming out, I was just like, oh, really? Like, they're really trying to hit milk everything they can. But then they're like, but Edgar Wright's doing it. And I'm like, oh, totally. I'm totally in.
Right. Me too.
I was, as soon as they said Edgar Wright was going to direct an Ant-Man, like you, I was just like 100% on board. This is going to be completely different. Just absolutely fantastic. And then we got what we did. We got an MCU quality movie, in my opinion, but we did not get an Edgar Wright quality movie, in my opinion.
No, I agree. Like, the movie felt safe. Like it was fine, and it's funny, and I like Paul Rudd and Michael Douglas, and it's like the movie's it's not a bad movie. Like, especially as far as as far as like MCU goes, like it's it's in the upper half. Like, it's not a bad movie. It's not Thor, but it felt safe. And but my problem with the movie, my problem with Ant-Man, is they treat you like you're stupid, and they spend a good majority of the movie explaining why it's okay he can talk to ants. They're just like, I don't care. Like as a comic book reader, I know who Ant-Man is. I don't need to know why it's okay that he talks to ants. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's like, I get it. It's comic books. Let's move on. Yeah. And I felt like they were just like, we need to be like, do you understand why it's okay? Because we're never going to use this again. But like, in Civil War, we're not even going to bring up that he talks to ants. It's fine. He just gets
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. But like, we're not going to bring this up again. But like, just so you know, he does talk to ants from time to time. There's all these different types of ants, by the way, that do different things that could be utilized in real life to make a point.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like Edgar Wright would just be like, he's using ants. Like, no explanation. It's just happening.
Right. He's got a device. It would make some kind of snappy jump cut into it, and pressing a button, and it would that's all the exposition we would have needed, which would have been none.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I'm totally on board with that, and I understand. It was Ant-Man's fun. It was better than what I thought an Ant-Man movie could be until I heard it was going to be directed by Edgar Wright, and then it wasn't, and then I was pretty disappointed. But all right, that's pretty much our. He doesn't have anything coming up right away. I mean, we mentioned something about a Beck music video, if those are still around, but no huge films, right?
That's out. That's out already. He did a Beck music video. I haven't seen it, but apparently it happened.
All right.
And there's a movie called Shadows that is announced for 2019, with no cast or anything attached to it. It's just a movie.
Yeah.
Plot kept under wraps.
Let me ask you this: Do you think it's a strong suit or kind of a detriment that he's not as much of a prolific director as some of these other filmmakers, like a Tim Burton or something, that he doesn't stay as busy as the other ones?
One of my favorite YouTube videos online right now or one of my favorite YouTubers in general is Patrick H. Willems. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not.
I'm not.
He's underrated for sure. Fantastic. What do you want to call, like, video essay kind of guy? He does video essays, but he also does like little short films, and absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend him. I seriously, he's a guy. He's one of my go-tos. He does a video about film school and how he was super arrogant and tried to get into all these top class like film schools and just kept getting denied. And then he finally got an interview at a film school, and they were like, "Who's your favorite director?" And he was like, "Edgar Wright." And talked about Scott Pilgrim versus the World for far too long. Now,
like we talked about The World's End for far too long.
Right. But then he like tweets out, how do you get into film school? just talk about Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and Edgar Wright, like DMs him and says, "Hey, just so you know, I never went to film school. Like I never got accepted." He says, "Just so you know, I never got accepted in film school, but good luck." And he did not get accepted into film school. But Patrick H. Willems, I'll plug him again. Check that channel out. Absolutely fantastic.
All right.
It was great.
Perfect. All right. So that kind of rounds out this episode of Director's Cut for Edgar Wright. I want to talk about my Barley and Hop special guest again. I finished them. Like I said, it's a grower, not a shower. As I guess that's like becoming an official kind of rating for me. Who cares about the numbers? I should just rip off Jeremy Johns and just say words. But this one, it's not good on first sip, but if you stick with it, it gets better. Yeah. Okay. How is it to actually drink a real beer, sir?
Well, I'm drunk and it's 2 beers. So that's what it's like to drink a real beer. Gotta say, pretty great. I mean, it's great. I will contend to my original statement, which is it's a little bit too floral for like my taste of IPA. I really prefer like a citrus, like you get that really nice grapefruit. Like it takes away the bite. This is not a beer that I would drink with like a spicy food for sure. Like the floral IPAs like never suit spicy food like ever. It's always just like too much of a bite.
Yeah.
I wouldn't eat with spicy food or wouldn't drink it with spicy food, but I understand why Rebecca would have bought it. We had a party at the store the other night, and there's only 2 left.
Excellent. And just to kind of say some stuff that's going on, we're going to take a week off, at least a week or 2, probably just a week though. I am moving, so this as you know it, the set as you know, it's going to be changing a little bit, all that good stuff. So we're going to take a little break from Director's Cut as far as next week goes. Did we settle on a director? I mean, if we did, I don't mind spoiling it now to give the kids something to look forward to.
I believe that in a couple of weeks we're doing Guillermo del Toro.
Oh, okay, yeah,
right.
Not where I remembered, but thank God we have 2 weeks because I have some film watching to do.
I have the same, but I mean, not really. I just want to rewatch Pan's Labyrinth because I love it and I haven't seen it in a really long time. So
oh man. Cool. So this is going to be a quick little teaser for that episode. I did not like Pan's Labyrinth, but I look forward to watching it again because maybe my position will change. But I remember watching Pan's Labyrinth, totally stoked, and I was like, what? No. So long, so boring.
I think that you, as who you are now, if you still don't like Pan's Labyrinth, we can't be friends.
Just put that on the tally for so many other.
Like, I'm done on the show. I'm done.
Pabst Blue Ribbon. John doesn't like Pabst or Pabst Labyrinth. We'll call it Pabst Labyrinth.
That's cool.
Jesus. All right. Yeah. So that's what's coming up. Guillermo del Toro. I know at least Tony, Rebecca Morgan, not Rebecca Erb, but Rebecca Morgan will be joining us for that as well. Being a effects makeup artist,
depending on the day and week. Rebecca Erb might want to join us as well. I don't really know.
Oh shit! Oh, that's gonna make it great. Hey, Rebecca, what did you think? Well, yeah. No, absolutely. We'll just speak in last names on that episode. But yes, enjoy the week off from listening to these 2 schmucks. Tony, where can everyone find you?
As always, you can find us at youtube.com/radentertainment, at radentertain on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all that jazz. I didn't put out a review for Incredibles 2, but it was amazing. Go see it unless you have epilepsy, because there's a big giant warning for that, because like the villain does a lot of flashy lights, so don't do that.
Yeah.
In any kind of situation. But the movie was fantastic. Absolutely loved it. A little quick review. It was great. Go see it. Spend your money there in the theater right now. Jurassic World comes out tomorrow, like Jurassic World 2. I want to go see it, but it's just not going to happen. I just can't. I'll be at Days of the Dead in Indianapolis this weekend, supporting our Midwest Horror Fest coming out this weekend, Garage House Studios, like selling comic books all weekend. We'll be hanging out with a bunch of celebrities. Bong of the Living Dead, or Yeah, Bong of the Living Dead is playing, which is also playing at Midwest Horror Fest. It's playing at 420 on Saturday. Check that movie out because it's amazing. It's so good. I want everybody to see it. It's like my favorite film so far that I've seen so far at Midwest Horror Fest. No spoilers. But yeah, so come hang out with us in Indianapolis. It's going to be a really good time.
Awesome. Man, that was an exciting outro. I think that was your best outro on the channel so far.
I blame this, or thank this.
We just got to get that Voodoo Ranger in there to loosen those lips. Man, you said something that I want to comment on, but this is just, I woke up at 4 a.m. people, like, what do you want from me? But yes, you could find me on Twitter at OrzovDunn. You could also find me on Facebook and Instagram, Jon Dunning, that's my name. And you could also find me right here on They Said, We Said. Shit, there was one. I just want to thank the chat, everyone that joined us, MTG Strategist, Ted from Card Sphere, Coach from Card Bazaar, all the usual suspects. Kevin Spacey. Creepy. Oh, no, I was going to say, and welcome to the after show, because now we're going to spend another hour talking about Incredibles 2. I just saw this last night. My opinion, and I said this on Twitter, might be my favorite movie of the year. Incredibles 2 was only June. Fantastic. What? It's only June. It's only me?
It's only June. You can't say your favorite of the year. We're only halfway through it.
But we blew our load fast. Black Panther, Infinity War, Solo, which I still haven't seen, and freaking Incredibles 2 now. Incredibles 2 did everything that I wanted it to do. It tugged on the heartstrings. It was a fantastic action movie. Brad Bird for action movies, direct them, all of them.
My high hopes right now, like my most anticipated movie of 2018 is the new Mission Impossible movie. I love that franchise, man. Like, can we do we need to do franchise segments.
Okay.
Let's do Mission Impossible. Let's just talk about that movie.
Means I gotta watch some. I've only seen the Brad Bird one.
Is that
not Spectre? That's Bond. I forgot.
I think it's the fourth one.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, absolutely. We'll work on that. Plus, coming early in August. This was just confirmed. Man, we were just keep going. But coming early August-ish. Alex Kessler from Our Big Star Wars Show episode 1 will be, I just had Alex Kessler on my Magic show on the channel, the Hive Mind, yesterday, talking about Magic, but he will be returning kind of early August, and we're going to have Our Big Star Wars Show episode 2. Hopefully it's not going to be as bad as real life episode 2.
Hopefully not.
That was a joke. Yeah, absolutely. So for Tony Walters, I'm Jon Dunning, and we will see you next time on Director's Cut. Enjoy the week off.